Welcome to the Rent to Rent Success podcast, the only podcast entirely dedicated to helping you achieve rent to rent success. We talk about the ethical way to get you started in property without buying it. This is our place to inspire each other to believe bigger, to be bolder, and to be game changers for good. Property investors and sisters Stephanie and Nicky Taylor are your guides on this exciting ride. Let's start up the engines and get ready to fly. Hello. Stephanie here. Welcome to episode 18 of Ask the Angels, where we answer your rent-to-rent questions. If you'd like to have your question answered, go to renttoRentSuccess.com/ask, ASK, and record your question there for me to answer. Today, we've had a question from Aadam about what happens when rent-to-rent goes wrong. And I know that you might be wondering the same thing. So here's Aadam's question. I'm just really daunted by the worst case scenario being I fail at getting any tenants and I'm losing money every month with the rent. Is there any way I can break the contract, e.g. put a 3-month break clause in? I'm sorry if this is a silly question. This is not a silly question. This is a great question. Because, there is a risk there. And so you need to know how to ensure that you're going to be successful in rent to rent and that you're not going to be losing money in rent to rent. So it's a natural concern to have. And going into rent to rent without knowing all of the things to do or without the proper due diligence can create this problem where you've got guaranteed rent going out, but you don't have any rent from tenants coming in. Within the rent to rent success system, we explain exactly how to choose the right property in the right area and price it correctly for your local housemates. You can see some of that process in episode 17, which is called Location, about how to choose the right location. And that is at renttoRentSuccess.com/17. So all of that pre-work in choosing the right property in the right location and choosing the right tenants helps every deal work for you in the long term. The next layer is that you need to use the rent-to-rent success deal analyzer to forecast the costs and allow an amount for voids. Voids are times when the rooms are empty between moves. The way that we do things, we don't have voids between rooms because of a system where everybody moves in on the first of the month. And the move-out date is always the end of the month. So when people give their notice, they need to let us know by the end of any particular month that they want to move out at the end of the next month. So it's still a month's notice for them, but the move out dates are always the end of the month. And what this means is that we know what our move out dates are, so we can have our handyman, we can have our cleaners ready for those turnover days. And people can then move in on the first of the month. So we don't have any void periods. But what we do is when we're doing the deal analyzer, we want to put some void periods in there. We want to put an amount for times when the room is empty, just so that we know the property will be profitable if we do have a couple of days voids. But the way that we show you is to not have that issue. So using the strategies we teach to choose the right tenants, rapidly fill the rooms will help you keep your voids really low. Another important part of this is negotiating a rent-free period. That's the period before the guaranteed rent starts, because we know that at the start of the contract, it will take some time to tenant the property. Therefore, we agree a rent-free period with the landlord or agent. These are just some of the things we do. Each part of the rent-to-rent success system works together with the others to produce a great result. But let's say you were doing this DIY, just pasting things together from YouTube, Facebook, and different places, and you were unaware of the exact processes for choosing the right property, analysing whether a property will work, choosing the right tenants, and the simple systems for keeping your rooms full. In this instance, if you decide you'd like to return a property, then you speak with the landlord or agent to return the property by mutual agreement, or you invoke the break clause in your contract. Sometimes people look at me strangely when I say this because they think I've signed a contract for 3 to 5 years. Doesn't mean I'm tied in. Well, yes, it does legally. And you want to honor that commitment as best as you can. But if something happens, say you're emigrating, or you to the Caribbean, or I don't know, something's happened and you no longer want to do it, even if it's not something going wrong with the property, then as I mentioned earlier, then you can end your arrangement early by doing those two things, mutual agreement or invoking the break clause in the contract. And for landlords and agents, the nightmare scenario is having a tenant who won't pay and won't move out. When you arrange a date with them to hand their property back, pay up to date, that is different. For them, it becomes like any other time that a tenant is moving on. And they would much rather that than you continue and don't pay but remain in place so that they can't make their property work for them. So I mentioned earlier that one way of doing it is the break clause in your contract, and that is something Trey mentioned in his question. Oh my gosh, it's so important. Sorry, it's Adam. This is Adam's question. It's so important to have the right contract in place which allows this. You can find out more about contracts in episode 16 or the contracts article on our website at renttoRentsuccess.com/contracts blog. It's one of the most popular pages on our website because so many people are confused about contracts. So you can get absolute clarity there. renttoRentsuccess.com contracts blog. You must have the right contracts in place that have a break clause. We have a one-way break clause, and it just really works well for situations like this. So for a tried and tested system like our rent-to-rent success system, although rent-to-rent is a simple concept, the implementation is nuanced. The mistakes, as you're saying, Adam, can be very expensive. So to summarize, the way to do this is to choose the right property in the right location and the right tenants. Do your due diligence on deals and put the right systems into place for filling your rooms. And of course, use the right contracts. That way, if it doesn't work out, you can end your relationships with landlords and with letting agents on good terms. We are all about the ethical way of doing things where people are delighted that they were working with you. And even if you need to end the contract early, it doesn't end on bad terms. So this is all part of our Rent to Rent Kickstarter program. If you're new with us today and you'd like to learn more about Rent to Rent, check out our free Rent to Rent guide and masterclass. There's a 90-minute masterclass video with everything you need to know, all the basics of Rent to Rent. So it's renttoRentsuccess.com/guide, GUID, renttoRentsuccess.com/guide. That's all for now. Have an amazing week, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for being with me here today. If you would like more, we've written the #1 best-selling book on rents to rent. You can find it at renttoRentsuccess.com/book. Reviewers on Amazon have described it as the best Rent to Rent HMO book and also as a definitive reference guide and inspirational. Take your next step today and buy the book. You can find it at renttoRentsuccess.com/book. And I'll see you again next time. Until then, remember, believe bigger, be bolder, be a game changer.